Hey men, Rob Cup here. Welcome to Man Talk Monday. Welcome to my kitchen table. I wanted to continue this morning in the series of BraveHeart Men's values with just kind of sharing with you one of our values, that is the value that we co-create the way together. We co-create the way together. The foundational word for me in this value is the word together. And just to be honest with you, values are hard. They're hard. They're very difficult to rearrange. We're often given values and we make decisions out of a value system. And to change a value means we have to do deep heart and mind work that causes us to think about the world differently and literally value things differently than we did before. And so togetherness in a Western American culture is super difficult because we so highly value independence and individual achievement and accomplishment. You know what I'm saying? Like we value competition. We value me doing something that will beat someone else and get rewarded, and I get rewarded for it. And so to come up with this value that has emerged out of our leadership roundtable and the way we all think together and the way we've looked together, togetherness is really, really difficult to kind of share as a value because it goes against really everything. If you are an American or you're a Westerner, it goes against what we've been given culturally. And so I want to give you a kind of an example of how this plays out, because if we have a value in us, we start making determinations differently about everything. Even what we read is tainted by a value, or it's aided by a value in our understanding. And so it's hard for us to think about a different cultural value than the ones that we bring to the table. So let me give you one passage in the Bible, 1 Peter 2, verse 9. If I read it from how I read it most of my life, from an individualistic Western American kind of mindset, it says this: "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into this wonderful light." When I read that passage, that verse, for a long time as I read it from this value of individualism that I had gained from my culture and from what I was taught growing up, and even what I was taught in a church setting. I would look at it and go, oh, it's just so great. I'm chosen by God, and I am God's royal priest, and I'm a part of his nation, and I'm his special possession. And that's really not what the passage is saying, but my value of individualism has tainted the way I view that passage. It shapes the decisions I make about what that actually means and how I interpret it and what it means for me. When I read it, if I want to add something, because this is really what the most repeated word in this verse is the word you. And so you can either mean you an individual or you a group. And so if I read it and add you all instead of the word you, it reads this way: "But you all are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you all may declare the praises of him who called you all out of darkness into his wonderful light." And if I read it that way, all of a sudden I get the benefit of, ooh, I'm a chosen one, but I also have to ask the question, who else are the other chosen ones? I am a royal priest, but who else are the other royal priests? And so this value of togetherness, as it goes deep in our souls, we begin to change the way we look at the world and stop looking at it from a me perspective, but we look at it as a we perspective. We published a statement or made a statement about what this means together. So let me read that to you. For BraveHeart Men, we co-create the way together. That value means to us this: as equal kings under the one great king, we seek the creative ease of true brotherhood. We each freely offer to the others our unique gifts as a part of a greater whole, a round table of belonging and challenge and meaningful work for the hearts of men. As the light scatters the colors when it shines through the facets of a diamond, so the light of God shines diversely through each of us. We value and respect our differences, even as we seek the creative harmony at the center of our circle. So the picture that we have is these very different people come to a table. And that's why we're at my kitchen table this morning. We come to the table, and at the center of the table is a work to be done and a focal point, and we all come to that table underneath the leadership of God, and we submit ourselves to the table. We bring our thoughts and our gifts and our unique perspective to the table, and we look to accomplish work together at that table. And there's, just like I just read for you from the statement, as light goes through a diamond and it shines through different facets of the diamond, and it reflects different colors on the wall. It's beautiful to have different people coming together to accomplish something. But togetherness has a difficult side to it. For instance, there's work for you to be done. There's creative work for you to be done in your own life, or in your family, or in your workplace, or in your community, or in your friend group, or in the world at large around you. And when you invite other people into that, there are different opinions, and there's potential conflict, and there's sparks that will fly, and there's frustration that will happen. But trust me, that's the point. When we co-create the way together, there is a movement and a grinding and a challenge that we have with each other. But when we lock arms with each other and believe that we belong together around the table, the world will change. The world will be different. There's another passage in Proverbs 27, verse 17 in the Bible that says this: as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And so this idea of two pieces of iron coming together, and if you hit two pieces of iron together, there'd be sparks that would fly. If you ground them together, there would be shavings of metal that fall off of it, and that seems difficult and painful. But what ends up happening is the metal is shaped by itself by doing the grinding work and the clashing work. Each piece of iron is shaped. And so we shape each other when we're sitting at the table and offering ourselves to each other, and not just trying to move forward alone. I want to challenge you with a couple things around this value, with a couple questions. The first one is, are you alone? Are you living life alone? I have come to find in the couple decades of men's work that I've done, or just being with men and being receiving from other men and giving to other men and talking to many people, the saddest thing for me is men who are lonely. I've been gifted to not be alone, and it's not just a gift I get. I had to cultivate and work in relationships and friendships to not be alone. And I do that because now, as I've developed years and years of this, I feel safe. I can come to people in different seasons of my life and seasons of success. And there's people in my life and around my table that look at me and say, you're not really all that, you know that, right? And they bring me back down to earth, and they help me see myself in true light. In the worst of times, when I feel terrible about myself, the people at my table can look at me and say, brother, friend, we love you. You're great. You're amazing. That is the brotherhood that I need, that makes me feel safe. When I'm trying to make a big decision, the people at my table speak into those decisions, and they're able to guide me and challenge me and shape me. So a second question is, who are you locking arms with? And are you honoring the link that you have between the people that you've locked arms with? Do you care deeply about who you invite to your table, and do you honor the fact that they're at your table, and you can submit yourself to the table and give yourself to the table and learn from the table? Fourth question I would ask you is probably the hardest one of this idea of doing this together. And this question is, what do you do when people at the table disagree with you? That's what makes this value so important, is differences are beautiful. They're not bad. When you're trying to do something together, when differences emerge, it might slow you down for a little bit, but the end result could be a way better conclusion. Let me give you an example of this from my own life. I have a friend who we started working together years ago, and when we started working together, we didn't like each other. We are very different. I'm kind of more visionary and relational and gregarious with everyone around me, and he is more detailed and focused, and he's more thoughtful and asking hard questions. And what I learned in these meetings with this friend is that initially he would ask a question and I didn't want to answer the question because it was too detailed and it didn't fit the vision, didn't fit my narrative. And we had fights about this, and it took us years to figure out how to be together in work. And when we finally came together and I began to understand I need him and he understood that he needs me, he has challenged me with very specific things in my life that caused me to think differently about myself and about the people around me. And we to this day have become great friends, and he's this part of my life that I know if I go to this friend, he'll ask me questions and we shape each other by over a cup of coffee or over a meal. We share differing views. I need him in my life to help me move forward in ways that are safe because he thinks differently than me. So will you lock arms with people, even people who might be different than you? And trust that the diversity of that person in your life, in the work that you're trying to do, will accomplish much and do more than what you could have done without them. And that is the beauty of we co-create the way together. One last thing I want to give you is, not only is this a value of BraveHeart Men, but Jesus talked about this in John chapter 17. At the end of his life, he prayed this prayer. And one of the parts of his prayer just is kind of baffling to me, but he's praying for all the people that would follow him. And he says, Father, I pray that they would be one, O-N-E, or unified, as you and I are one. And I think this is not just a value of BraveHeart Men, but it's a value, a deep value of Jesus. It's his vision for the world, that in all of our differences, we can become one together and accomplish much in the world. And if we pause and we listen and we think and we allow disagreement to take place and we take note of the beauty of our differences and listen to each other and come together in that act, in that work, just because we're trying to do it together, the world will change. So that's my prayer for you, that you would find a table of other men, other people that you could lock arms with, even if they're different than you. And that in the act of locking arms, the world around you would change and much would be accomplished, and God's best would come out of all of you together. Have a blessed day, and I pray that you can experience the joy of togetherness, unity, and oneness with other people. Have a great one.